Welcome to the CEO Journeys podcast. I'm Paul Vetter, CEO and co-founder of VXIT, an IT service provider based in South Florida. This podcast highlights the successes and the struggles of the everyday entrepreneur and business leader. Let's get into it. This is going to be a fun episode. We were just talking off camera. I have a good friend of mine, and we've known each other for a long time, just probably over 25 years now at this point. You met me when I was about 15 years old, so I'm also getting old. We were joking about getting old. Ben Starling, welcome to the CEO Journeys podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So let's jump into, tell me what you do. I know that you do some fundraising at a very high level, but tell me the nuance and the details of exactly what you're doing there.
Well, I'm still trying to figure it out too. But what pays the bills is I take clients that need to raise major gift support, generally for their well-established nonprofit. I help them, guide them, mentor them, coach them, lay out strategy for them so they can engage philanthropists at the highest levels. Since COVID, it's interesting because I have now taken on for-profit clients, which I never dreamed that would be a niche market for me, but it has become a niche market, and those are folks that have products and or services that are geared to family offices, high net worth individuals. It seems they don't know how to talk to wealthy people, so they pay me to teach them how to do it and talk for them sometimes.
Got it. So, I mean, family offices, that's kind of within the realm of the nonprofit space because you're convincing people to donate money or to spend money in certain ways.
Somewhat, kind of.
Yeah. All right. And your company is called?
Southern Philanthropy.
Awesome. And you grew up in Florida, born and raised?
Yes.
Okay. Grew up in a small town.
Small town called Immokalee, Florida. That is in the Seminole language. Immokalee means my home.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. How small are we talking here?
I think we had 3 red lights when I was growing up. I think there's probably at least a dozen there now.
Okay.
So
still a small town.
2 middle schools, two elementary schools, 1 middle school, 1 high school. The people that you start school with are the same people you finish with.
That's crazy.
You get to know one another really well.
How is it? Because when I think of like a small town, I think of Midwest USA, because there's not a lot of ancient history within Florida, and obviously there's some history in Florida, but it doesn't go back as far as like the Midwest does. Is it the same, similar? What's the vibe growing up in Immokalee, Florida?
I used to think it was not that great because we had to drive 100 miles round trip to get to a movie theater or a mall, anything like that. But looking back now, I was the closest thing to Norman Rockwell that I think most people ever get. To grow up in a town where you can ride your bikes all over town and not have to worry about being kidnapped, and you stop into the local mom and pop store and you want a Coke and you just sign your name to the ticket. It gets billed to your parents' account at the end of the month. And,
oh my gosh.
It's also one of those places, too, that if somebody sees you doing something wrong, by the time you get home, they've already called your parents or they stopped their car and gave you a spanking right there on the spot.
That's
so
amazing.
It's a wonderful place. Great sense of community and family, and it's always great growing up there, even though you recognize those things as you get older, just how great it was, but just the sense of community.
Yeah. I kind of had that similar experience growing up, born and raised in Florida here in West Palm Beach, but we went to the beach every now and then, but I didn't realize that we essentially live in paradise. And I kind of took that for granted as a kid, and I would talk as I was a child growing up. I'm like, I'm going to move to the mountains somewhere cold and where it snows and things like that. And then my business partner, who's my business partner at VXIT, he moved down from Jersey, and he basically asked me, he's like, why are you not at the beach every day? And I'm like, I don't know, because it's just always been here. And he kind of reinvigorated my love for Florida. Yeah. So this will always be home base for us. So I totally get that. That's amazing. So fundraising, I was looking at your website and whatnot, and the thing that comes to mind is, you know, I think that there's a lot of soft skills that go into what you do. And you have to kind of, the word that I wrote down here is operationalize the soft skills. So talk to us about kind of the art versus the science of fundraising. Obviously, within a business, you need business process and you need to do things the right way. And I would consider that the science of business, whereas the art, the soft skills, and I can equate it to IT. So I can teach IT people, you know, that want to get into the industry. I can teach them technology, but if they don't have those soft skills, the people skills, it's harder to teach that.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to dive into the art versus the science of what you do.
Okay. Well, let me say, first and foremost, I've been very blessed to have been brought up in a setting that would lend itself to future fundraising and hospitality and the art aspect of the work that I do, and then had incredible mentors. And oddly enough, we were in the in this building on the fourth floor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Years ago, and it was the founder of Northwood University we had the founder's office here.
Okay.
And I worked closely with him. He's an incredible man that understood the art of fundraising. He understood the art sometimes much more than the mechanics of it. And what I think is most important today is understanding the art. I mean, this day and time, you can go to AI and it will give you the mechanics,
Yeah.
but it doesn't give you the what I call the added touch or the icing on the cake or that heartfelt appeal that that you're not going to get from a book. So being very blessed and having brought up in a situation where the artistry aspect of what I do was really taught and refined, and sometimes that it's generally taught by example rather than from a text. And you know, as we get further and further along in the world of technology, I realize the artistry aspect of the work is what's missing from that, and that's what I've chosen in my work to really focus on, because they're not going to be able to get that. You can get the mechanics, but you can't get the art aspect of it. So what I mean by that is when you communicate with a donor or a potential client, something like that, you know, the mechanics are going to tell you, remember their birthday, send them a gift. And I think the art aspect of that would be you do your due diligence and you find out they like carrot cake and they prefer, you know, cream cheese frosting with walnuts and not pecans, and you have it crafted, and you don't order it from a company per se. The art is you go and pick it up, you bring it to their office, you have birthday candles put on there, you've gone and you've gotten a silver tray from the Goodwill that you polished up, you know, $1 and spent $10 worth of labor cleaning it up, and you deliver it to them and have it set up and make a big fuss over it. So those are some of the things that I would consider to be the artistry of it, and that's the art of the personal connection. And you know, and I often equate it into terms that most people can understand, and that is if you are if you see a beautiful girl and you want to date her, and you do your homework and find out that she likes guys to wear khaki pants and navy blazers, and she loves yellow roses, and she loves the smell of Old Spice because it reminds her of her beloved grandfather, and she loves Italian food. You know, if you start out, if you present with all those things lined up, and you take her out for a wonderful meal, and it's in a wonderful Italian meal, and you have the flowers, the whole bit, and it's everything she likes, you're head and shoulders above your counterparts right there because you've done your homework. So that's not something that the mechanics are really going to teach you.
Where did you learn that? Because I feel like that what you just described, I totally resonate with. I would like to consider myself a good gift giver, because I put that thought and energy into it. And I'm asking you a question that I actually don't have the answer to because I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that?
My parents owned a flower gift shop growing up, Hallmark cards and that sort of thing. So people were always coming in the store and they were buying gifts. And my parents were great in knowing, it was a small town. So you always knew someone's preferences and what they liked. And they always made sure that the gifts that came out of their store were really personalized, and they were things that the recipient would particularly enjoy based on their buying preferences. And they made incredible notes on that kind of stuff. So everything that went out, you might say, was customized to the recipient. And in a fast-paced world, people consider one size fits all, and you just throw it out. And from your business, one size does not fit all. In my business, it's much the same way because I'm dealing with people at the higher end of the philanthropic world, and they can buy everything, they can do anything, and cookie cutter is not what they want.
So that's something that I've been kind of dealing with. Even recently, I've got a prospect that's courting us. We're courting them, and I joke that when I was sitting at a sales table with a prospect, that I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing us, because I want to make sure it's the right fit for both of us. But I want to ask you about that. Is the essential question is like, how do you impress a rich person or somebody that can get whatever they want at any time? Like that is such a it's such a tough nut to crack. And I've even got on AI and I said, hey, look this person up, try to do some research, but it's been interesting to try to navigate that.
I think the first thing so important is to listen. And in this day and time, very few people want to listen. They want to talk. They want to win an argument. They want to win a discussion. They want to look smart. When you listen, I think you come across as much smarter. I had a billionaire family that I happened to be traveling with, and during the time on their plane with them, and they mentioned several things they liked, and Christmas was coming up, and so I was sharing with them how. I had just been out to Immokalee, and a friend had made some jam, and it was really, really good. And I said, "What's your favorite jam?" He said he liked strawberry, and I said, his wife, I said, "What's it?" She said, "Orange marmalade." I said, "Well, I love orange marmalade too." So for Christmas, it was coming up the next month. I got him a case of homemade strawberry jam and a case of homemade marmalade. And gave it to him. And sometimes when you give things to very wealthy people, maybe they'll use it, maybe not. But it was an incredible compliment when one of their security guards said, "We just want you to know we've had to lug your cases of jelly up to their northern home. And when we got up there, they went to their home at the lake from their home in Grand Rapids up to their home in Harbor Springs, Michigan. We had to go back because they had forgotten the jelly and the jam at the home in Grand Rapids, and that your jam was specifically asked for. So we just want you to know."
Wow.
Wow. So that was a great compliment, and I laughed about that one.
That's incredible.
But it was what they liked, and when you're dealing with people who can buy whatever and do whatever. Oftentimes giving them something that is basic but thoroughly enjoyed becomes the greatest gift in the world. I had another family that had a son who was graduating from high school, and I'm thinking, what in the world? This family meant a lot to me. They were large donors. And I thought, what do you give to, he had somebody that given him a Rolex watch, and I mean, I certainly was in no position to do that.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give him the gift of wisdom. So I wrote 100 people from across the United States, everyone from politicians to news anchors to celebrities to local mayor, the whole bit, and told them that I had a very dear friend that was graduating from high school, and I wanted to give the gift of wisdom.
Wow.
And here's his name and address, and I wondered if you would take the time to share a lesson or a piece of advice with him that could carry him for the rest of his life. And I want to tell you, these notes, cards, letters, some of these people sent gifts.
Wow.
It was incredible. And it turned out to be one of the most amazing graduation gifts that he ever received. In fact, they had it put into a book and bound and that sort of thing. And, back then, I think stamps were maybe 50 cents, something like that. So I sent out 100 letters, so $50. Yeah. And a gift that will not be thrown away, and a gift that was so special they had it bound.
Wow. That's incredible.
Again, it's the art of listening, and to be creative. Another thing, I had a donor one time that she was a baseball fan, and she liked to go to spring training, and I happened to know the manager of the stadium, and I called over there and told him, I said, hey, we really need the VIP treatment for, a donor of ours. She loves this. He said, let's set up a day, a time, and you tell her she's coming for something special. So we went over there. He took her on a behind-the-scenes tour, arranged great tickets, provided lunch, swag bag, got a couple of the players to come over there and have their pictures taken with her, and the whole bit. And she absolutely loved that.
That's incredible.
Those VIP experiences are often things that, again, are something that someone often can't buy. But when somebody makes that happen, you never forget the person that made it happen, and it's really neat too when you can be there and snap pictures of this going on. Then you can have it put into a book and send there, so they have a remembrance, and the remembrance that you were the one who made it possible for them. So.
Jeez. So do you track? I mean, everything you're doing is. I mean, you're in sales for all intents and purposes. Are you tracking all of this in some type of CRM, like the notes on people and stuff? I know it sounds weird to say that, but I'm assuming that's the science behind it. Is you kind of build a profile.
Let me say, I am rapidly approaching 60, and when I first started, my boss in this building. We had something called a Rolodex, and you're too young to probably even know what that is. But that's where it kind of like an address book in a rotary type format, and you had cards on there, and you had their contact information. Well, on the back of them, he would always write down notes if he went to lunch with someone, beloved dog, wayward kids, wife loves apples from Washington State, that sort of thing. He taught me to do that. Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I realized my memory is not what it used to be. So I generally write these things down much more than I do now. I get on to my clients all the time and tell them, you have got to write this stuff down, because if you get hit by a bus, the organization needs to know this information.
Yeah.
And so, half the challenge for me is not listening. Half the challenge is taking it and actually writing it down so that there's a record of it. But yes, I do try.
That's fascinating. What I've learned, and I've built in the way our company started at first, it was owner-led sales. So it was just me networking and relationship building and stuff like that. But that doesn't scale, to a larger organization. So I've had to build a sales team over the last 2 years. And what I have found in building a sales team is that the people that are great at sales, at relationship building, are also really bad at taking notes
Absolutely.
and filling out CRMs.
Yeah.
So it's this double-edged sword of something that we know we need to do. And even myself, like I'm so busy dealing with the people side and the relationship side of it that I forget to do those things.
In fundraising, I always talk about there's two types of fundraisers. One is the diligent student, and one is the gambler. The diligent student is the one that can spout off the mechanics and give you detail on the mechanics, but is afraid to leave the office to actually put those things in place. And the gambler is one that just run down the mechanics, picked enough of it up, and he or she is off to the races and is going to close the deal based on the sheer force of their personality. And the details of the mechanics are often left to chance, but verbally, they can tell you 25 nuances of the person that they just sat down with. But the challenge is getting them to write that down so that the person who is the stickler for the mechanics can take that and ensure that that is recorded in the system and can be acted upon.
It's such a dichotomy.
It is.
It's crazy. Now, let me ask you this, because I had this happen to me. I think it was last year, the year before, and this goes into kind of what we're talking about. So I got on the phone. It was a Teams meeting with a prospect. She talked about just being overwhelmed, overworked. She was just like at her wit's end. And one of the problems was her IT. So we were obviously on a call to see how we could help. And she had mentioned during the call that they did family game nights. I don't even know how this got brought up, but she had mentioned family game nights. And somehow I found out that she liked sushi. Her and her husband love sushi. So after the call, I sent a little care package. I actually bought like on Amazon a board game, and then I knew she lived up in Port St. Lucie, so I got her a little gift certificate for like $50 for her and her husband to go out on a sushi date. Sent her a little handwritten note, which is something I picked up from you. And we called her back a couple weeks later just to follow up on things in the conversation. And unfortunately, she was like, yeah, I got your package and it was just kind of creepy. So I don't know if you've ever gotten negative feedback, but I think that's probably the first and only time that may happen. But she didn't like that personal touch too much. So I don't know if it was too much too soon or what. But
I guess my next question would be, what kind of board game did you send?
It was a family friendly. Yeah, it was a family friendly one. I don't know, but she was just like I think she was a little apprehensive to get on the phone initially because she didn't want to get on the call. I think somebody tasked her with getting on the call with us. So she was just negative and opposed to this whole sales meeting anyways. And then, we had a decent conversation. But after that, she used the word creepy and I was bummed.
Well, something you may want to do whenever you're having a conversation like that, and she mentioned she likes board games, ask which board game does she like the best, okay. and you could say, hey, Monopoly was my favorite game. Have you seen they make the Palm Beach version of Monopoly? Oh, I've not seen that. Yeah, it's a great game. You ought to check it out. Then send her the Palm Beach version. I generally, when I'm having conversations with people, especially people that I want to get to know for whatever reason, I ensure that there is a point of connection that involves me saying, hey, I'm going to send you something. I think you're going to like it. Okay. So that connection's made, and whenever they see it, oh, he said he was going to send us this. This is what he said was so good. We've got to try it. We've got to do it.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to do that. Give somebody a little heads up before I dive that deep.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I actually have another prospect that we're talking to now, very successful food manufacturing company. I'm not going to say who it is right now, but one of the owners loves sneakers, and Nike. You can actually get on Nike.com. I'm wearing a pair of my own right now, but you can customize a set of Nike shoes.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
Like color and everything. And they're like $150.
Wow.
Not a lot of money. But my hurdle is I don't know what his shoe size is. So I can't call him and ask him, or at least I don't feel like I can call him and ask him. So I need to figure out a way, and I don't know if you have any tips for me, but I need to figure out his shoe size. So what would you do in that situation?
Is this somebody you see regularly?
No, it's not. And I actually just met him 2 weeks ago. I've been talking to the organization, but he's the COO of this company, and I just got to him essentially. I have a very close relationship with the director of HR, who reports to him, and I was thinking about texting her. I was like, "Hey, do you know his shoe size?" I don't know that she's going to know that, but I'm going to say, hey, can you find out, sort of thing. I thought about even like, because they're a little bit on the famous side. They're on Instagram.
Okay.
I even thought about maybe messaging his wife and saying, hey, I want to send him something as a surprise. What's his shoe size? But also maybe creepy.
No, I think a lot of times it might be creepy if you ask him what his wife's shoe size was. But
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to maybe attack one of those routes.
I did a thing one time years ago. I'm trying to think who I was raising money for, but was on kind of a tight budget, but needed to say thank you to kind of a large swath of people. And back during that time, you could go to Sam's or Costco and get one of the 5-pound bags of M&Ms for like $10. And so I sent out an email to everybody that I was going to give to, and I said, hey, we got a kid here at the office, and we're having a contest to see which is more popular. Which do you prefer, peanut or regular? Everybody replied back. I'm thinking this would be one of the dumbest emails.
Yeah. So
we did that. We went and got the M&Ms and took a hole punch, tied a ribbon onto it, put a handwritten note on it, and then delivered it to them, for $10.
That's amazing.
And by the time people got it, it was like, hey, those peanut M&Ms are my favorite. So it's a fun thing.
Yeah. So you kind of have to just go at it kind of in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we used to do with Northwood University, we had a big event every year, and we honored various CEOs. And I would always give their secretaries, kind of a 5 or 6 question document to be filled out. What's your favorite candy? What is your favorite chocolate? What's your favorite bottled water? What's your favorite soft drink? And we would personalize gift baskets based on what, and have those delivered to their rooms for the weekend.
Oh, that's great.
So it was a nice thing, and I always made sure that save that information. And whenever, if you have somebody like Snickers, I was famous for going and buying a case of Snicker bars, having that wrapped up and sent to them on their birthday or delivered over to their office. And, it's a fun thing. And to somebody who's a noted CEO, what kind of gift are you going to be able to give them for $20 or $30? It's going to make an impression.
Yeah. It's so, but again, that's where that art comes in.
Yeah.
You navigate, or it reminds me of something I say in my company. When somebody comes to us for help, a lot of the times they go, hey, this is my issue. And what we actually need to do is ask questions or find the thing below the thing.
Yeah.
So it's not the thing normally that they bring to us. It may be a symptom of the thing that's broken, but there's a thing below the thing. So I feel like that in this case, like, you got to find the thing below the thing.
There was a book I read at the beginning of the year. I think it was maybe what was it last year that I read it. I sent it out to a lot of people. You may have gotten one. It's the lady's name, the author is Mel Robbins, and the book is called Let Them.
Yes.
And there is one thing that I will specifically remember from that book. There is, I believe it is a Japanese technique of asking why 5 times to get to the root of the issue. And they gave an example of a man at the factory who got his arm caught in a machine. And they said, well, all right, well, what's the problem? Well, Johnny got his arm caught in the machine. All right. Why did Johnny get his arm caught in the machine? Well, because the belt turned on and he went to reach for his lunch. Why is Johnny eating his lunch on the conveyor belt?
Yeah.
And well, it's because he didn't have any other place to put his food. Well, why doesn't he have any other place to put his food? Well, we took the bench or the stool away, and it used to. Well, why did we take the stool? Anyway, so what seemed like at first we need to put a guard onto the conveyor belt to not let an arm go through there really wasn't the issue at all. And
Is that the needed picnic tables?
yeah, exactly.
Not anything else.
But it was fascinating, this technique, asking why 5 times. And I know in my line of work, whenever I go to an organization and they say, well, we need to raise more money. Why do you need to raise more money? And what oftentimes you get to is organizations really, for the majority of them, do not need new donors. What they need to is engage the donors that they already have and monetize those relationships. There are a lot of organizations in any type of sales that it'd be first to say, well, we need more customers. You need more customers. It's like, are you even servicing your existing customers properly so that they would even dare think of renewing a contract with you?
Yeah.
That
one cuts deep, Ben. That one cuts deep. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it's true.
I know for me.
Yeah, it's true.
Am I giving them unlimited value?
Yeah.
And somebody taught me a long time ago when I started this business and said, don't make your services the cheapest. Make it the most valuable. And I've never forgotten that. And what am I going to be able to give them that they're not going to be able to get from AI? They're not going to be able to get off YouTube. They're not going to be able to get off a TED Talk. And when you think about it, all the information in the world is basically out there in public, and it's available largely for free.
Yeah.
But they're going to pay me to hold their hand, coach them through it, and put a strategy together that is custom for them.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, you don't have this problem, I do, but if you go to a store that says, oh, one size fits all, they're lying to you. That ain't the truth. But that if you go to a custom clothier and they tailor something just for you, it's going to be a perfect fit, and it's probably going to look really good because they match the color to your colors, and it's going to be great. And I like to think of my services as concierge or bespoke or custom tailored, whatever you want to call it, because every organization really needs custom tailored strategies, at least at the highest end of their fundraising.
Everything that you just said could be applied to the IT services business, because it's so true. And we fall into this trap where we're trying to build a scalable business. I mean, we're going to do probably just under 10 million in revenue this year, or somewhere at around there. Thank you. 30 people, 30 employees. And what we're finding, we're in this weird adolescent stage in our business where we're trying to scale, we're trying to put processes in place. It's actually leaving kind of that bespoke custom world where we're getting into just servicing customers in mass. And it's uncomfortable because I don't love it. Yeah. There's some clients that I have no relationship with. Like we sold them, somebody else sold them, and they're doing business with us, and I don't know who they are. Whereas before, when we first got started, I knew everyone. I was there, providing strategy, and now other people, my employees, are doing that. So it's this weird thing that I'm trying to work through in my mind.
I get it. Some of the fundraising manuals that I've written, they're generic in that anyone could take this and put this information in place. What I try and do, because I am very much that high-end, high-touch, is ensuring that at least once a quarter I am in touch with these people in some way. And I suspect in your business, making time to do something once a quarter to touch them and engage them. If you buy a book off Amazon or a manual off Amazon, Amazon isn't going to probably offer you a conference call or come and have lunch and, learn the 5 newest trends in IT.
Yeah.
And, I try and give people that because I realized too, and at first I didn't, it took somebody to knock me in the head with it, but not everybody has the money to pay my consulting fees. Not everyone has the need. I like to say everybody has the need to do it, but some people don't.
Yeah.
Some people have wonderful gamblers on their staff that can take something and read it, put it together, and put it in place. They just need to be pointed in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I enjoy cooking because I enjoy eating, but when I cook, I find it very hard to read a recipe and measure it a bunch of. That's not me.
Yeah.
But I'm skilled enough that I can read a recipe, get a general feel for it, and then go and cook it.
Yeah.
So, I don't need a chef to walk me through a cooking school demonstration on that. I just need them to kind of frame up for me and then let me do it.
Yeah.
It's the diligent student that needs the really hands-on training. And the gambler, you do that and you refine their technique to ensure that they are properly harnessed.
Yeah.
I guess
you described a chef versus a baker because my wife loves to bake. She loves a recipe, and what you just described, I can't stand recipes.
No,
I can't stand them. They drive me nuts.
No,
and I the way I like if we have somebody over for dinner, I'll generally I'll find out either what their favorite dish is or what their family likes to eat. And the best way I go about that is I'll go into Publix, I'll pull up 3 recipes of the same dish, and I go, I like this about the dish, I don't like this. And then I put the recipes away and I just go through Publix. I grab all my stuff, the grocery store, and then I go home and do the thing.
Yeah.
And it may be we had a family over, the wife's Jamaican. So I was going to make jerk chicken, but I had decided that morning that I was going to do that. So it needs to marinate overnight. So I kind of went towards that direction. So it was jerk adjacent chicken. But it came out amazing. And I made some coconut rice and stuff like that. But, and she's like, yeah, I actually don't really like jerk chicken. I actually like this chicken better. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that art and science.
People that bake really, they have my admiration because the patience that it takes to lay out all of the ingredients and plus all of the little bowls and stuff you got to mess up to do it. Now, if anybody eats dessert at my house, I'm making them bananas Foster because I don't have to measure anything, or I'm making them peach cobbler or a blueberry dump cake. Those are things that I do not have to measure. I can throw it in, and even if you get what is supposed to be the measurements wrong, still turns out good. So put a scoop of ice cream on it, and it's no one will ever know.
I love that. That's amazing. I was writing some notes down because it's something that I had in my head, being able to get in contact with our clients once a quarter. I think that's super important to me. And we were kind of talking about that at my leadership team. Finding the time to do that is tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But I need to make that a priority.
It is. And I mean, even just sending them a book you've read that, you give them some highlights or the one lesson you learned, charge them an extra $200 a year, and then you built in the cost of your quarterly touch points that you give to them, and you'd be surprised what they will say. Gee, my current vendor doesn't do that. You're the only one that's ever done that.
Yeah.
You're the only one that's ever said thank you.
Yeah.
Tangibly said thank you.
Yeah.
And to know when their birthdays are, and even if it's a case of Snicker bars or the M&Ms, and I always go back to M&Ms because you can go at Sam's and Costco, and they already have their patriotic M&Ms that are already out. That's a fun thing.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. You get a patriotic, 5-pound jug of M&Ms. Your kids love it. Your staff love it.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing.
I hope that I'm about to blow your mind.
All right.
Did you know that you can order custom M&Ms with an image on it?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right.
Yeah.
I figured you might, but I did that for my daughters one time. I ordered them M&Ms with their faces on, and actually it was a picture of them as a baby.
Yeah.
And they got a kick out of it. They were tickled pink. They loved it.
My friends own the Orlando Magic, and their colors are blue and white.
Yeah.
And for their son that manages the team, he loves M&Ms. He likes the regular M&Ms, so I got him the regular M&Ms with the Magic logo on one side and his picture on the other side in blue and white. Yeah,
That's amazing.
It is fun to customize like that.
That's amazing. So the future of your business, you're a solarpreneur. Do you have any employees?
Contractors. Yeah.
Contractor. Okay. Yeah. How do you scale what you're doing? It's just you. You have this.
I did have employees, and what I found was that I'm probably not a real good delegator because I want everything customized, and a lot of times I can think I'm the only one that is going to have that level of creative insight. And I've not figured out how to scale it yet. I do have someone that I told her, I said, I want you to come to work for me one day. And she said, another crazy day at the office. I just might do that, because her instincts are there. Her instincts are right. I've not figured that out yet, because it is so customized.
Yeah.
What I do. I think from a standpoint of just general information, teaching the diligent students, there is tremendous opportunity to do that, amping up book sales and that sort of thing. But I've not figured out how to do it on the higher end.
Do you think AI is going to affect or touch your business in any sort of interesting way in the future?
I tell you, it's interesting, because I was meeting with a client, and one of their employees happened to say, they started talking about AI and said, I just typed in, what type of capital campaign would be needed for what we're doing. and I immediately, that was, all right, I need to go home and figure out what this AI thing is. And I went home and I did it. And I want to tell you, it spit out the mechanics of what I would teach them.
Yeah.
No way around that. What it didn't teach them was the artistic side of it, to say, you have these 5 people that are affiliated with you. We're connected to these 5 people who are not affiliated with you. This is where 2 of these people intersect, and this is how we could bring them in and engage them, and this is the path that we could take. And that immediately told me, I really don't need to worry about teaching the mechanics of it. They can find that. I got to be focused on the art, because that's not going to, AI is not going to take these people by the hand and make an introduction for them and then go and tell them, here's how you build the personal relationship with them. AI may tell you, send them a note, send them a copy of your press release, but it's not taking the personal information and getting that personal connection and building the relationship off that. So often when I meet someone new, and I did this when I was employed, I never went with the expectation of, I need to give them my stump speech. I need to send them 25 articles on the organization. That's not my intent. My intent is, I want to get to know you. I'll give you an example. When I worked for the Scripps Research Institute, I had a boss that, gosh, I probably shouldn't give details too much on this. He may listen, but he's not in the area anymore. But long story short, a very wealthy family had come across our path, and I engaged with them, and they seemed to like me. So I said, well, let me take you to lunch. And I went and came back, and it was gone for almost 3 hours. And the first thing he said was, what diseases did you talk about with them? And I said, I didn't talk about anything. Well, what did you tell them about us? I didn't tell them anything. well, what did you talk about for 3 hours? I said, oh, I wanted to hear their stories and blah, blah, blah. And well, you're supposed to be out there, talking about fundraising with this. I said, well, because I listened, I found out the grandmother died of this, the grandfather died of that. They had a older sister that died of this. I said, that tells me right there, just by listening, what their interest may more than likely be.
Yeah.
And that is, now I'm going to invite them over come for a tour and to meet the scientist, and especially a scientist that does the work on something that the beloved grandmother died of.
Yeah.
I'm not having to say, hey, I know you're interested in cancer and come to meet the researcher that does work in breast cancer.
Yeah.
But it's listening. Now, if I had gone into that luncheon and point blank said, what diseases are you interested in? That changes the whole tenor of the conversation and the ability to build a connection. I am looking for the opportunity to keep in touch. I'm not looking for the opportunity to sell you something, because once I have asked why 5 times, I'm going to determine, be able to laser target what it is that's brought you there to begin with. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah. And I'm like going through my head. It's hard to teach that. You have that innate ability, or you don't, or you're close to having that innate ability, and you could kind of be brought across the finish line.
Yeah.
But it's hard to teach that.
I had. I often share with my clients, when they say, I said, it's kind of like somebody coming up to you and said, hey, I need a doctor. Well, is your foot hurting and you need a podiatrist? Or are you having a baby and we need to go get you an OBN? Are you having a mental health crisis and we need to get you a psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Are you having a philosophical, crisis in life and we need to get you a psychologist? What is it? Did you break an arm and we need to get you an orthopedic doctor? So, but if somebody just says, hey, I need a doctor. All right, I can get you to a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, you rush them to the ER and, why are you here? They're sitting in an emergency. You broke a tooth.
Yeah.
You need a dentist. That's the type of doctor you need.
Yeah. We're so, especially in our field, we're so quick. And again, that's what I'm trying to teach my guys, is we're so quick to like provide a solution instead of just listening and hearing, again, because there usually is a thing below the thing. And your ability to add a special touch to whatever's going on to that situation is, you can't just do it. Like you can't just go in and fix the problem, because nobody, from an IT standpoint, a lot of people, when they call into us, they're already upset, on high alert. They're not calling us to go, hey, everything's working.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite. Hey, everything's broken, So being able to provide that special touch and ask, like, again, going back to that conveyor belt, like, what were you actually trying to do when this thing happened?
Yeah.
Because what you were trying to do, there may be something that we can help along the way. But we're reading, our support team's reading together a book called The Compassionate Geek, and it was just highlighting your ability to navigate that, listen with empathy, and really just slow down. It's none of this. And with any success that I found in my life, there's been nothing sexy about success. Success itself can be sexy, the goal that you're obtaining or trying to get to, but the road or the path to success. And I always equate that to my fitness journey, where, like you said, I had all of the information I needed to lose the weight. It actually took this last year. I hired a coach to kick my butt weekly, where we were checking in. I was sending him pictures, because I told him, I'm like, I want a visible 6-pack before I turn 40. I've never had that. And, he helped me lose over 30 pounds, and there was nothing sexy to what he was holding me account to, but it was the accountability and the consistency of it. So, I always equate that to the sales team, the sales journey, and back even to our support team. Is just being consistent through that human experience that you're describing, and the ability to slow down, listen to people. It's a skill that we don't possess naturally. Some of us do have it naturally, but not a lot of us.
When you mention about interviewing clients is they think they're there to interview you. You're really interviewing them. I get that. And one of the things that I look for in a client is somebody that's going to do what I say, because if they don't, that becomes a reflection on me. And they say, well, what does that mean? And I use the example of a trainer. I know I need to lose 75 pounds. And I say, oh, I want to do it, but I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to eat properly, the whole bit.
Yeah.
And I always tell people before I take them on as a client, I give them that example. And I said, I'm going to look for someone who's ready to do what deep down you need to do, because if you don't, then you're going to go in front of your board of directors and you say, hey, we paid Ben's company all of this money. How much more money are we raising? Well, not much. But you're not going to tell them, I didn't do what Ben said to do. And I suspect in your business as well, if the client's not willing to put in the infrastructure needed in order to correct a problem and properly train their people, you can give them the best IT service, the best computers, the best whatever, but if they're not skilled enough to use it, and to use it correctly, it's a problem.
It is. Yeah, it is. Because we're actually, I had a discussion, a guy that I know, we are servicing his company and they're in startup mode. Like, they're a smaller company. They're one of our smallest clients. They're in startup mode, which means just chaos, pure chaos. They're all doing all types of jobs. There's no process to anything. And we're actually starting to butt heads with them because we're a mature organization with process and things need to flow a certain way. And some of the issues that they're having, I went into the relationship going, hey, we need to address these things first. And they didn't, because they didn't want to spend the money. So they didn't want to invest in the infrastructure and or the training for their people. So now they're still having the same issues. And I said, we talked about this. I told you a year and a half ago when we started that we needed to do this thing. I even told you about how much it would be, and you still haven't done it. And it's only going to get worse if you put it off. Yeah. So that's something that I need to get better at during our sales process is being just upfront with that. Because you're right, it does reflect poorly.
All my clients are required to sign a 12-month contract because always going into a contract, what I think is the problem is often not the key problem. Kind of like Law and Order. Yeah. The first 20 minutes, you think you figured it out, and it's very clear. It's the last 10 minutes that you really figure it out. But I developed something, it's called the Foundation. And it's about an 8-page document that we go through from the very beginning. And I tell them, for the first 2 months, I'm going to observe. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to interview your staff. Then I'm going to come back to you with a plan. Because I've yet to go into a situation where the executive director or the president or the board chairman has accurately told me what the problem is. And I'd often share with people, and much like in your business, when the foundation is not solid, it's a problem. Yeah. And in pretty much any and every religious text, regardless of what it is, it speaks to building on solid rock and on a solid foundation. And when you build on a cracked foundation or a foundation that's built on sand, you don't put a high rise on sand. And so often, everyone wants, hey, I want to raise all this money. That's great. We can do it. But the foundation's got to be solid, and we got to ensure that it's solid before we start the building process.
So you're telling me you don't have the magic pill? Yeah, there's no magic pill.
Kind of like the diet. Yeah. Even a shot of Ozempic is not going to pull off 50 pounds. You're still going to have to eat correctly. You're still going to have to exercise. Yeah, may help you, give you an advantage, but it's not going to do it for you.
Yeah, and I that's great. We'll end on that point. I appreciate it. I wrote some stuff down. You inspired me to make some little organizational changes. So I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to one summer when you needed to make some extra money to go somewhere, and I think I paid you $15 an hour to come over and help package some stuff and take it and run errands.
Yeah. Yeah, and real quick, so my dad was. We'll end on this story. So my dad was a mailman when I was growing up, and you had a PO box over in Palm Beach, and that's how you met. I don't even know. You must have run into my dad on the street.
Yeah.
Found out. I think initially that. At the time, I was like 15 years old. I was kind of dabbling in fixing computers and I wasn't even fixing them. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew enough to be dangerous. And I think I came over one time to fix your computer or help you with some.
You were raising money to go to a convention, and a group that I belonged to had some dollars available, and you came over to see me, and that's when I recognized your dad.
That's crazy
because your dad brought you over there.
Yeah, Teen Pact was that? That? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Long time ago.
That was long. So on that trip, I went to Washington, D.C., and I flew home from D.C. on September 10th, the day before 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a long time ago. So, well, thank you for your inspiration as always, my friend.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you joining us.
Great to see you all grown up.
Thank you.
Yeah.